All right, welcome everybody. Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, January 21st Board of Education meeting. We have 7 of our trustees, 3 new members. Welcome today. Our first action here today is electing an acting chairperson. Oh yes, we start the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. I'm really sorry. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry about that.
I'm just so excited.
I guess so. So our first item on our agenda is electing an acting chairperson. Members of the Board of Education must elect an acting chairperson to officiate the meeting until the election of the president has been completed.
Be it therefore resolved that Nancy Philippart serve as acting chairperson to officiate the meeting until the election of a president has been completed.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Elish, supported by Mr. Hoft. Anyone has any comments or questions? No comments or questions? Everybody in support, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against, say nay. So Dr. Philippart is going to be our acting chairperson and take over our meeting.
Okay. Just for the information for the members of the public, every year in January, the board goes through an organizational meeting. We're going to try to go through this as quickly and efficiently as possible. It is a requirement of our role in office, but we are going to be electing our officers for the year and then making some other approvals for the business of the board. So bear with us. We will try to do this quickly, and then we'll get into the bulk of our meeting. So the first item of business is the appointment of a temporary secretary. It's suggested that the acting chairperson, or that I'm going to appoint Judy Holmes to act as temporary secretary until such time as the secretary to the Board of Education has been elected. So thank you, Ms. Holmes, for acting in that capacity. So our first order of business is to nominate and elect our officers, first being the office of president. So I'm going to declare nominations in order for the office of the Board of Presidents. I need a motion to open up nominations. Ms. Anee?
I, Vital Anne, nominate Dr. Nancy Philippart to serve as the president of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Okay.
Support.
Okay. Technically, we don't need a support. Are there any other nominations for president? Okay. So I do need a motion then to close the nomination for president. Ms. Potts?
Read the be it therefore part in 4A.
Yeah, it's the bottom.
Be it therefore resolved that nominations for the office of president of the Troy Board of Education be closed.
Support.
Okay. So we have a resolution by Ms. Potts, supported by Ms. Anee. All in favor of closing nominations for president, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Okay, now I need a resolution to elect the president.
Can do that. Oh, Ms. Alicia.
Mr. Leash?
Be it therefore resolved that Nancy Philippart serve as president of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Support.
Okay, I have a resolution by Ms. Leach, supported by Mr. Hopp. Any discussion? Okay, this will require a roll call vote, so Ms. Holmes?
Mrs. Alish?
Yes.
Mrs. Anee?
Yes.
Mr. Hopt?
Yes.
Dr. Melton?
Yes.
Dr. Philippart?
Yes?
Mrs. Potts?
Yes.
Mrs. Endler?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Okay, next we will open nominations for the election of vice president. So may I have a nomination for vice president of the board? Ms. Alish?
I, Amina Alich, nominate Ms. Vital Anne to serve as vice president of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Support? So we have a nomination by Ms. Leash, supported by me. Any other nominations for vice president? Okay, may I have a resolution then to close nominations? Mr. Hop?
Be it therefore resolved that nominations for the office of Vice President of the Troy Board of Education be closed.
Okay, I need a
Support.
second. Okay, so we have a nomination by Mr. Hop, supported by Ms. Ani. All those in favor of closing nominations for the office of Vice President, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, nominations are closed. Now I need a resolution to elect our Vice President. Ms. Alish?
Be it therefore resolved that Vitale Anais serve as Vice President of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Support.
Okay, I have a resolution by Ms. Alish, supported by Ms. Ane. And this is also a roll call vote. Ms. Holmes?
Mrs. Ane?
Yes.
Mr. Hop?
Yes.
Dr. Melton?
Yes.
Dr. Philippart?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts?
Yes.
Mrs. Zenler?
Yes.
Mrs. Alich?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Congratulations, Ms. Ane. Our next officer is the secretary, and we are going to, I need a resolution to open nominations for the role of board secretary. Mr. Hop?
I, Matt Hopp, nominate Amina Leach to serve as Secretary of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have a resolution by Mr. Hop, supported by, I guess we didn't technically need a second. Any other nominations for secretary? Okay, now I need a resolution to close nominations for the office of secretary. Dr. Melton?
Be it therefore resolved that nominations for the office of Secretary of the Troy School Board of Education be closed.
Support.
Okay, and we have a resolution by Dr. Melton, supported by Mr. Hop. All those in favor of closing nominations for secretary, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, now I need a resolution to elect our secretary. Ms. Ani?
Be it therefore resolved that Amina Alish serve as the Secretary of the Troy Board of Education until December 31st, 2025.
Support.
Okay, we have a resolution by Ms. Ani, supported by Mr. Hop. We'll have a roll call vote. Ms. Holmes?
Mr. Hop?
Yes.
Dr. Melton?
Yes.
Dr. Philippart?
Yes.
Mrs. Potts?
Yes.
Mrs. Zenler?
Yes.
Mrs. Alich?
Yes.
Mrs. Ane?
Yes.
Okay, congratulations. Thank you. Motion passes, and thank you, Ms. Alish, for being our secretary. Next is appointment of the treasurer of the school board. May I have a motion, please? Ms. Ane?
Be it therefore resolved that Dan Trudell, Assistant Superintendent, Business Services, be appointed as the Treasurer of the Troy Board of Education for the period January through December of 2025.
Support.
Have a resolution by Ms. Ane, supported by Mr. Hop. All those in favor of appointing Dan Trudell as our school board treasurer, please say yes.
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 Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Congratulations, Dan. Our next item is consideration for our fund depositories and investments. So we need to take action to approve our fund depositories and investments. May I have a resolution, please?
We're just doing this. Yeah.
4E.
Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Education adopts the resolution of fund depositories and investments for the period January through December 2025, and that a copy of the attached resolution in its entirety be incorporated as part of the official minutes of the Board of Education.
Support.
We have a resolution by Ms. Alish, supported by Ms. Ane, on our fund depositories and investments. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we will designate our board and district legal counsel. May I have a resolution on that, please? Mr. Hop?
Be it therefore resolved to continue the designation of Clark Hill PLC, Collins and Blaha PC, Miller Johnson, Thrun Law Firm PC, and Miller Canfield as legal counsel to advise and/or represent the Troy School District and Board of Education as necessary for the 2025 calendar year. The superintendent is authorized to consult additional counsel as needed with prior notification to the board.
Support.
We have a resolution by Mr. Hop, supported by Ms. Haney. Any discussion on this? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Next is to designate the superintendent as the deputy secretary of the board. May I have a resolution, please? Ms. Alish?
Be it therefore resolved to continue the designation of the superintendent of schools to be deputy secretary of the board with the authority to act for the secretary for the 2025 calendar year.
Support.
Okay, we have a resolution by Ms. Alish, supported by Dr. Melton. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, congratulations, you're the deputy secretary.
Resume builder.
Yes, now for a very important position, designation of the person for posting notices of meetings. May I have a resolution, please?
Sure.
Ms. Zendler?
Be it therefore resolved that the designation of a person for posting notices of meetings for the 2025 calendar year shall be Judy Holmes, Secretary to the Superintendent of Schools.
Support.
We have a resolution by Ms. Zendler, supported by Ms. Haney. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Congratulations, Ms. Holmes.
Ms. Holmes.
You are the notice poster. Okay, next item is the publishing of our Board of Education meeting calendar for 2025. May I have a resolution, please? Ms. Botts?
Be it therefore resolved that the Troy Board of Education hereby adopts the schedule of meetings for the 2025 calendar year as indicated on the attached calendar.
Support.
We have a resolution by Ms. Potts, supported by Ms. Alish. Any discussion on the calendar? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. And finally, our last item of the organizational meeting is to appoint board members to our committee membership assignments for 2025. May I have a resolution, please? Ms. Alish?
Be it therefore resolved that the Troy Board of Education hereby adopts the board committee memberships for the 2025 school year as attached.
Support.
Okay, we have a resolution by Ms. Alish, supported by Mr. Hop. Any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, that concludes our organizational meeting. Thank you for your patience, but that was something that we needed to do to get organized for the start of the calendar year. Dr. Machewski, I'll turn it over to you for recognition.
Thank you, Dr. Philippart. We do not have mission moment this evening. It is on the the agenda. Since we did not have students in school today, we told them that they could come in February. So we'll do this particular mission moment item in February, as well as our student spotlight. You'll also notice we don't have our student reps here today, although we do have a couple of students in the audience that we'll hear from in just a few minutes. So thank you all for being here. But our student reps will be back with us in February. With that, though, I have an exciting resolution that I am happy to read. Each January, excuse me, the Troy School District honors and celebrates the trustees of our Board of Education. School Board Appreciation Month is a time to recognize a crucial role that board members play in reinforcing the mission of the Troy School District, ensuring learning for all. We stand before you today with a proud sense of gratitude and appreciation as we celebrate this month. We'd like to express our heartfelt thanks for the unwavering dedication and tireless service you provide to our students and staff. The roles that you play are pivotal in shaping policies, fiscal stewardship, and support of world-class teaching and learning. Your commitment to fostering a nurturing and conducive environment that not only positively impacted the lives of our students, but also created a foundation for success and extends far beyond the classroom. Your strategic vision, leadership, and decision-making have played a crucial role in guiding our educational institutions toward excellence. Through your collective efforts, we have witnessed advancements in curriculum, infrastructure improvements, and a steadfast commitment to the holistic development of every student under your care. In addition to the countless hours spent in board meetings and deliberations, you have demonstrated a genuine concern for the well-being of our students and the growth of our educational institution. Your passion for education is truly inspiring, and it is reflected in the positive outcomes we see in the achievements of our students. As we express our gratitude during Board of Education Appreciation Month, let us acknowledge the impact of your selfless service. On behalf of the entire community, we extend our sincere thanks to each member of the board. Your commitment to education is a beacon of light, guiding our students toward a brighter and more promising future. May this month of appreciation be a reminder of the significance and lasting impact you continue to make on the lives of those you serve. Thank you for everything you do. And we do have something that we'd like to share with the board.
Thank you. Thank you. Should we open? Well, we'll wait till everybody gets theirs. Do we want to open it? Let's wait till everybody gets theirs, then we'll, because if we open it, we'll spoil their surprise.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
For you, it's your first meeting. You already get to start.
All right, now.
Please, by all means.
Oh, more spoil. Look at this. It's a Troy School District
Troy
hoodie.
School District hoodie.
Very nice.
Spring will be the white ones when they come back out.
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you
Very,
for the cold weather.
very needed for now. Right? You have to hide it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
More than welcome.
One thing I will note too is we all have wonderful cards that many of our student classes made for us. So want to thank the students who
Beautiful
made
cards.
these beautiful cards for us.
Yes,
Yes,
a
and the
beautiful
banner.
banner. So
There's a
nice.
banner back there as well.
Oh, wow, wonderful. Anyone have any comments other than thank you? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next item of business is an update on the Turtle Woods. And actually, Chris is not giving
Chris is
that.
not here,
Yeah.
right. Melissa's here.
Melissa's giving that, okay.
She's brought a friend with her.
From Oakland Schools.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We are not Chris Bunch.
Yeah.
But we talk less than he does, so this is going to work out okay. Promise. My name is Melissa Prouse. I'm the manager of planning and development for Oakland County Parks and Recreation. With me is Brian Marzoff, who's the land protection manager for Six Rivers Land Conservancy. And I also just wanted to really quick also introduce our county commissioner and also our Parks and Recreation commissioner, Ann Erickson Galt, who's with us here tonight as well.
Thank you, Ann.
So we are very excited to be here tonight to both inform some of your newer commissioners about this process and how we got here and how excited we are, and kind of tell you what's to come over the next year. We have some really exciting news come in over December, so we're going to tell the story a little bit kind of quickly because we know you have a busy agenda, but then tell you a little bit about what's coming up next. So I'm going to let Brian get it started.
Okay, thank you. Is this our clicker?
You clicker or you can use it.
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much, Melissa. Thanks for having us here tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. I'll start with just a brief history of the Turtle Woods property. For location purposes, it is on the north side of Square Lake Road between, I believe, John R. and DeQuinder, right kind of behind Evanswood Church. And quickly looking at this map, the woods used to come all the way to the road, and the school district made a deal with the developer to develop the front side and then preserve the back, which is fantastic. So this was former school district property and not needed anymore as a school site, just to remind everybody. So the great thing about the property, though, is the school district has been nice enough to let everybody use the property and really not keep everybody out. So everybody in the neighborhood has really enjoyed using it. There's been a big grassroots effort to kind of help Turtle Woods come along. So it has a long history, probably 20-plus years at least, of kind of getting us to this point. So as a quick overview, again, goes back to the 60s, an unused property, and we're at this point now where this is 70 acres of property. And we have an assignable purchase agreement that we already have in place with the school district. So we're looking forward to being partners with Oakland County. We have applied to the Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund grant back in 2023. It was not funded, but with a lot of legwork and everybody chipping in to let them know how important this really was. The Trust Fund Board, and this is the big news, did award the grant in 2024 to Oakland County for $2.175 million to help with the purchase of this property to be used, as Oakland County nature area. So that's super exciting. This property, just briefly, has some great benefits for our ecology. The stormwater capture in itself keeps the water off the streets and out of the basements. It's great for our water quality, climate resiliency. We talk about the huge amount of trees that this has and the amount of oxygen it puts off versus the amount of carbon dioxide we push out and it captures in. So it's just a huge benefit in terms of that, improving our air quality, and of course cooling and shade, and really recreation is not on there too, which is important because that's part of the equation. We put up some water quality modeling numbers because sometimes it's important to quantify some of these benefits. So these are percentages of bad things that will happen if this were fully developed and all the subdivision. So these are the things that would negatively impact our water quality in this area. So we're happy that we're keeping it natural, of course, because that's our goal. So there's some rare species out here. The spotted turtle in the picture is a Blanding's turtle, and you can identify that with the yellow under the neck. It's a special concern by the state. And then two of these plants, the wahoo and the seed box, are also of state special concern and on the endangered species list. So it's important that these and many other plants and trees and things that are out there are preserved forever. The other couple unique things is it's got a great southern hardwood swamp, and the jewel really in this property is the wet mesic prairie remnant. And those are rare to find in this area. You don't see them very often because back in the day they were easy to turn into agriculture because they were just kind of little patches of water in these areas and they weren't full wetlands. So these were easily converted into agriculture or subdivision. So it's rare to find this kind of natural resource, especially in this area. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to continue on.
Thank you. So we wanted to just talk briefly about the public support that's been behind this project. Since the start, I mean, as Brian mentioned, we've kind of had our eyes on this property for at least the last 20 years. I would say it's been 5 or 6 that we've been working really hard to try to get it. And the residents of Troy have overwhelmingly supported this project. I've done a lot of public engagement for park projects over my time at Oakland County Parks, and we had more turnout for this project than any other project that we've done in the past. So the community has really rallied around this. We had a ton of people show up at public meetings and open houses. I think I submitted 65 letters of support to the trust fund for this project. We usually submit 5. So it's just kind of a testament to the community and how important that this was to them. Another thing we wanted to mention is that we worked with some of your students. Adam Burns, your film teacher at Troy Athens, brought some students out and they put together a really fantastic presentation that we gave to the trust fund back in 2003, August of 2003, that just really captured the essence of Turtle Woods and what it is. I mean, if a picture, paints 1,000 words, a video is like 1,000,000. I mean, these people don't get to see all these places, so to really bring it to life for them. I was telling Chris the other day that I still have people that work at the DNR come up and talk to me about how impactful that video was and how much they appreciated it. So it was really cool to have students be a part of the process. They came to the trust fund and watched the presentation. And it was just a really unique experience, hopefully, for them. This is just a little tiny bit of the footage that they captured. I apologize if it gives you whiplash in a few parts, but again, you can you can, tell people all about the natural features and how great they are and how important they are, but until you actually kind of see what's out here, it's a really magical place. I think they spent several hours out there just with sound equipment trying to capture the different bird songs in the park. So it was just a very cool experience, and we were happy to have them be a part of it. So where are we at now? On the map that you're seeing now, the yellow outline portion is the Turtle Woods, what will be Turtle Woods Nature Preserve. The property on the bottom, the little green box, is a 1.7 acre piece of property that we have already acquired in partnership with Six Rivers, because the property is really kind of landlocked for access. So being able to secure this piece of property, make sure that we have access, a nice place for people to park, restrooms, a way to get in and out easily, was kind of critical to the success of this. So we are very grateful that Six Rivers stepped in and helped us with that, and to the family that sold us that home. They've been on that house for generations, and they have, benefited from having Turtle Woods in their backyard for generations, and they are really excited to see their property become part of the park going forward. So we're very grateful to them. And then the 23 acres of wetlands in pink up there on the off John R., those were recently acquired by somebody that lives in that neighborhood who's very interested in conservation. So we're still talking with him about what he would like to see there, but we're excited that they, that's no longer property that could potentially be developed. And then just kind of getting back to what we're trying to do here. Brian talked about the ecological benefits of the property, but at Parks and Recreation, we're also very much in the people business and getting people out onto the site. So, one of our main goals at Oakland County Parks is to create future stewards, is to get kids into nature. So this really allows us to have this really natural piece of property in a very busy urban environment, where we think a lot of people will be able to access it on a regular basis. We're already talking to our internal programming staff and the Stage Nature Center about doing cool programs out there. We're anxious to talk to your teachers about how they can continue to or start again using this as an outdoor classroom. So we're looking forward to those discussions. For those that are interested in how the math shakes out on this, Brian mentioned, we weren't successful with the trust fund in 2023 because our match number was not high enough. So we had come back to the school board at that point and asked if you'd consider increasing the match, which you did, to the 50% donation of value, and that essentially pushed us over the finish line and got us this grant funding. So the donation of value from the school board is the $1.875 million that you see up there in the orange at the very top. The total project is just shy of $4.5 million. So the trust fund awarded us $2.175, and then Parks will essentially make up the difference once we get the final appraisals and we're ready to close on the property. In terms of next steps, unfortunately, the grant was awarded in December, which is great. The appropriation takes a long time. So we will be calling and checking in regularly with our folks in Lansing to try to get this passed quickly so that we can get the funding in hand. Last year it took almost a whole year. So we're hoping that by this summer we'll have project agreements in hand and we can execute and close on the property. In a perfect world, if all goes to plan, we would love to start construction in 26, maybe wrap up in 27. And just so you know what construction means for a project like this, we're going to operate this as a nature preserve. So construction essentially is your ingress and egress, a nice parking lot, a nice restroom facility, and then trails and boardwalks. And that's it. No playgrounds, nothing else on the site but the trails and the boardwalk. So we're going to keep it as natural as possible, but also we want to get people back there. We like to share this just because it's really cute, as my last slide. This was given to us by a local Troy resident who came to one of our public open houses, a real sweet little guy that wanted to help us out by drawing a map of Turtle Woods for us. So if you want to get out there and see the big hole or the twisted stick, this is to get you out there. So this is sort of our first official site plan for the property. So. But we are happy to answer any questions that you have. And again, I just want to thank the school board. Obviously, we could not have done this without your support and your donation of value, and we really, really do appreciate how much you also value the natural resources that are available here and getting people access to those resources. It has worked out tremendously well, and we're very grateful, and we're excited to keep you in the loop as we move forward with our design and development for the property.
Great, thank you. Questions or comments at all from any board members?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Christine.
More for the community and the people who are listening to this for the first time. Can you explain the relationship between Six Rivers and the parks and us and how this come about?
Yeah, for sure. I'll give a quick and then you can. Okay. So essentially, Six Rivers One of the challenges with the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund is the lengthy process. So it's very hard when you need grant funding or financing of any sort to purchase property. It's hard for governments like ours to kind of jump in and do that very quickly. And Six Rivers is able to jump in and do that very quickly. So in this instance, they came in, they have the land under contract with the school district right now. It's an assignable purchase agreement.
Yes, it is.
So that once the grant funding is awarded, they will assign that purchase agreement to Oakland County Parks, and we will operate it as a nature preserve. Is that captured?
Yes, that's one of the big parts. The other big part is that they have a rule where they don't want to see land being sold between schools and government.
Two government
Public.
entities.
Public to public. So
Two
that's- so
government
they're-
entities.
So Six Rivers acts as a middle person and to help the transition occur.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Thank you.
Great. Anything else? All right, well, thank you so much, and we're
Just
just,
make one mention,
Okay.
Dr. Philp, I just said for the audience, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge Ida Edmonds.
Edmonds.
Ida was a long, 30-plus year member of the Board of Education and a huge proponent of the district considering this particular project. It was really her who got it going, and Carl who helped push it over the finish line.
Yes.
So I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention those individuals and the work that they did to help support this.
Nice.
But thank you all, and
Yeah, and thank
please do,
you.
by all means, give Chris our best as well. I know he's not feeling well.
Sure will. Thank you so much.
great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our next item of business is public communication.
You want a break? You want to take a break, or do you want to just keep going?
You know, I guess if there was anyone here that was just here for recognition, you can feel free to leave at any time, but I think we'll just move forward with our agenda, and the next item will be
Additions and deletions.
additions and deletions.
And there are none.
Okay,
There you go. Now we're up.
okay, now we'll do public
So we
communication.
have 7. It's kind of mixed, but we probably just go do them all, get them over with,
Okay.
if you want.
So some of these are a mix of agenda and non-agenda items, but we're going to go ahead, particularly because we have some students speaking, so we're putting our students first, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and do all of them. Again, just a reminder, we have our clock up here, so this is your opportunity to address the board. You'll have 3 minutes, so you can watch the timer here. If there is any follow-up that is required, acknowledge that. We aren't going to be having a discussion up here. This is your opportunity to address the board, but you will get some follow-up after at a later date. Okay, so our first speaker, or speakers, are from our Athens student government, and if you want to come up and introduce yourselves and, present your, yeah.
Thank you so much for allowing us the time to speak about Charity Week tonight. I am Claire Kilbride, and I am the president of Athens Student Council.
I'm Olivia Sokolowski, and I'm the vice president of the Student Council.
I'm Alexis Gilbo, and I'm the other vice president of Athens Stuco.
We are excited to announce that in just a few short weeks, our Charity Week at Athens is going to begin.
So this year's charity is called Next Steps for Seniors. Next Steps for Seniors bridges the financial gap for low-income seniors in need of proper housing and care. For proper housing and care. Next Steps for Seniors ensures that these seniors, through hope, grace, and faith, that they are able to live out their years with dignity and grace through this care.
And we want to invite the Troy administration, school board, and community to attend our abundance of activities to participate and support us.
First, I'm going to pass out a few flyers that we have, and then we're going to go through some of the community events that we have going on throughout the week.
Great.
We have our restaurant nights, January 30th, February 3rd through 6th, and February 8th at various restaurants in our community, such as McBee's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Detroit Burger Bar, and Dave's Hot Chicken, to name a few.
Saturday, February 1st, we have our ice skating at the Troy Sports Center.
And February 2nd, on that Sunday, we also have a Topgolf fundraiser in Auburn Hills.
We have a euchre tournament on the 7th with at the Macedonian Cultural Center.
And that's an adult one, so that's 21 plus.
And then Saturday, February 8th is our Athens Community Quest. It is like a road rally, and it is from 11:15 to 4 p.m.
On the Sunday, we have Jazzercise at Athens Gym from 11 to 12.
And then Monday, February 10th is Espresso Yourself, located in the Athens cafeteria, and it starts at 7 p.m.
Tuesday, we have our volleyball tournament. That one is at 6:30.
And Wednesday, we have our parent cook-off at 5:15 and our Mr. Athens pageant at 7.
And our last community event of Charity Week is Carnival Night, which starts at 5:30 and ends at 7:30. In the past, we have raised upwards of $100,000, and our goal this year is to crush that. We hope to see you at our Charity Week events throughout the week to support Next Step for Seniors Foundation.
Great. Great. Perfect. Thank you. And again, your student government has just been amazing over the years, and it sounds like you guys are really well planned, and so we will make sure that this gets broadcast so that you can get as much community support as possible.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ladies, do you want to mention who's here with you tonight?
Our
Supporting you?
assistant principal, Ms. Henry, and our advisor, Ms. Ficori.
Former advisor, Ms. Chrysopoulos back there? All right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Our next speaker, Ann Erickson Galt.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Ann Erickson Galt. As Melissa Prowse mentioned earlier, I'm one of the county commissioners for Troy. You actually have 3 county commissioners. I represent a segment of Troy that's mostly east of John R. The middle section of Troy is represented by Penny Lubes, and then our board chair, Dave Woodward, represents the western part of Troy. I'm just here, first of all, just to introduce myself, especially to the new board members and some of you who I know. And I did provide my business cards to Superintendent Wachewski, and I hope that if any of you have any questions or concerns, do not hesitate to contact me by phone or email and let me know what I can do to help you. And the other thing I just wanted to say is how excited I am about Turtle Woods. I live across the street from it. I'm really geeked. And I wanted to, I'm so thankful, Dr. Wachewski, for calling out the work that former board president Carl Schmidt, I know he really worked hard to bring this across the finish line. And I really appreciate the work that he did on that. And I'm very appreciative to all of the board who helped make sure that this happened. And thank you. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And otherwise, feel free to contact me anytime.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, our next speaker is Alex Karpatowicz.
Good evening. I'd like to call the board's attention to an earlier board meeting almost exactly a year ago, specifically the February 27, 2024 Board of Education meeting. During that meeting, the Board of Education voted to end Troy School District's 19-year run as a school of choice district. A quick primer for the audience or those at home that may not be familiar with the term school of choice. School of choice allows students that live outside Troy School District boundaries to apply to attend Troy schools. As Plant Moran shared during the February 6, 2024 workshop meeting, Troy schools had 1,045 school of choice students enrolled during the 23-24 school year. For the board, this includes 105C and non-105C students. Now, why does all this matter? Troy School District receives the state foundational allowance of $9,608 for each enrolled student. If you want to get technical, TSD actually receives a couple $100 extra for the 90% of Troy students by hold harmless, and we'll come back to hold harmless in a little bit. Anyways, while the enrollment across each grade level isn't evenly distributed, let's assume for a moment that exactly 1/13 of those students graduate from Troy School District each year. That models out to about 80 graduating students per year, or $770,000 of lost revenue per year, every year for the next 12 years. While that may not seem like much for a district with a budget of close to $200 million a year, that's $10 million a year of lost revenue each year by the time the last school of choice student graduates from Troy School District. Now, coincidentally, the Board of Education later discussed an operating millage renewal for hold harmless for the November 2024 ballot that read, restrict the levy on principal residences to no more than 5.7 mils and protect against the impact Headley rollbacks of 4 mils. This resolution was subsequently adopted by Troy voters. But leading up to the vote, Troy School District referenced on its website that renewal of hold harmless millage would not result in any increase in Troy resident taxes. How is this even remotely possible? My question to the board, what is the expected rate of hold harmless adjustment given that Troy School District will lose $750,000 in revenue per year for the next 13 years? And to tie this all together, during the workshop meeting last Tuesday, the board president referenced that if the district does not shuffle around a few hundred students, Troy School District may be forced to close the school. I would have to think that the net savings from redistricting pales in comparison to the subsequent revenue loss in ending school of choice. Where was the modeling of how the district would absorb this revenue loss and how it would subsequently tie into hold harmless adjustment and potentially closing the school? As a community, we need answers to these questions from this administration and board.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Ali Papadian.
Good evening, Ali Papadian, Troy resident, Troy parent. I'm glad to finally see the day that we have 3 new board members and that the 3 board members that were elected to not represent the parents are finally gone. One of the topics that has been brought up recently, and that's a hot topic in our district, is the decline in enrollment. And for those of you who have not been here for the last 5 years on this board, let me just give you a quick run on parents that have been coming to this board and speaking up against the reasons why parents have been leaving the district, taking their kids to private schools, Christian schools, and homeschooling. 4 years ago, just one reason, 4 years ago, this board encouraged and approved and allowed our superintendent to bring in the Troy Police Department to arrest a father for bringing his 5-year-old student to school without a mask. He brought the Troy Police here to arrest him for trespassing. That parent left the school district, and other parents just like him. Another reason, parents have come up here for the past 5 years and brought examples of explicit pornography that exists in our middle schools and our high schools media centers. The previous board did nothing about it. They turned a blind eye, a deaf ear, turned the other way, and said, we don't care, move on, do something else. Parents have left the school district because pornography still exists and is available in our school district to 11-year-olds. DEI and CRT propaganda. It's embedded in K through 12 in this district. Parents are leaving this district because of the garbage and the propaganda of DEI and CRT. I just came back from Washington, D.C. a few hours ago. I was at the inauguration of President Donald Trump. And if you haven't heard, if you continue to push DEI and CRT in our district, you are losing your funding and your federal funding. And if you think you don't have problems right now, or if you might have some problems with finances in our district, it's only going to get worse. And the other thing is removing honors classes, and the previous president actually denigrating and making racist comments against parents who actually put academics, make academics a priority in our district. That's why parents are leaving. I spoke to an owner that has a tutoring business here in Troy, and he said Indian parents and families are leaving Troy. They're moving to Novi because of the disaster of Troy not putting academics and making that a priority. And in case you have no idea of what to replace DEI with, let me give you a suggestion. How about start teaching students the importance of America first and being an American patriot? How about start with that? Get rid of DEI garbage and replace that. And maybe say the Pledge of Allegiance and then teach them that that's an important part of being an actual patriot. And maybe this board should start by setting an example by saying the Pledge of Allegiance, including our new elected secretary of the board who refuses to say the Pledge of Allegiance at this board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Fleshman.
Good evening. Welcome to the 3 new board members. I've actually been coming here the last few months after my family and I heard about some changes that could potentially affect our children's schooling track. My family decided to move to the Troy district for the Hamilton Bowling Park and Troy High track. That did provide, we moved in May, and we thought, okay, we got our kids set up exactly how we were planning on for their future. Well, as I've been attending these past few months, I've learned about school sizes, splits, taxes, niche, and other online rankings. And these things I've learned about by sitting there, not coming up and talking, but listening to the board and how they've presented us that information and how other people have presented in their presentations, showing us percentages of taxes, et cetera. So, you know, these changes that have been proposed have significant implications financially as taxes in our track. As I've looked this up, our community actually pays a higher tax, and that's okay. We did that as a decision for our kids' futures. And for that rug to potentially be pulled out from underneath us is concerning. When the board presented in November regarding taxes, there was the largest part of the pie chart was 21% came from taxes, which was an outside funding. And I propose that if we take what most of the community feels is maybe our strongest track, and those families that chose to pay more taxes, make changes for their family, that the gross income that will come to the board and to the schools, et cetera, will actually decrease because we're decreasing the value of that track. We should not decrease the value of what we consider maybe our highest niche and online track. Instead, what we should do is bring up the other tracks to that value. And we don't do that by taking my kids and making them stronger. We do that by improving those tracks secondarily. And that's how we make the whole school district as strong as the Hamilton, Bowling Park, and Troy High track. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Amber Barbieri.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me come up and speak. So I'm here to explain my frustration with the meeting that happened just the last time you guys met, when you were introduced to those options of what, like the gentleman before is talking about, and the one before that. And I entered the district back in 1986. And I was one of those kids that had the double split. I was fortunate enough that somehow somebody missed my address. They mixed it up with the district. And I got to cross John R. and catch the bus to Larson. My sister, not so fortunate. She had to go through the double split. District wouldn't allow her. She was not grandfathered in. I started hearing that argument from parents at Troy Union back in the 80s. Nobody asked to go to Smith. We asked, send us with the majority of our class to Larson, not to Smith for us to split again when it came to high school. I came back to the district in 2016 with my son. I can't believe it. This argument is still going on in 2016. I'm like, what? My kid's entering kindergarten. This hasn't been cleaned up. This has been going on at that point for 20 years to me. Here I am. It's 2025. We are still having this argument. However, each one of you did not ask for any other option to be considered when Machesky asked, do you want more information on option A? No. Okay, move on. Option B? No. Okay, option C? You all nodded, and we're moving forward with looking at option C. Option D? No. Option E? No. Or there's the option of keeping a disparity and not doing anything at all. You guys, we're looking into this. What is that going to do for the students of Troy Union and for these families that I have been a part of now going on 40 years? The same argument. We preach we are a DEI district, and I disagree with the other gentlemen. We should be promoting DEI. But is it equitable to ask the kids that just happen to be your Title I kids in that area? I was a Title I kid in the 80s. Is it fair to say that they have the same opportunity to go? Because the majority of people in my neighborhood, we can afford to take our kids and drive them to Larson. Not everybody has that luxury. And it is not right that I am standing here 40 years later saying this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and our final speaker is Mr. Joey Wiebe? Oh, Colby. Oh, yeah. Sorry, it looked like a W.
Hi. My name is Joey Colby Bernert. I'm a clinical social worker, mathematics tutor, and graduate student at Michigan State's College of Human Medicine. I currently live at 5125 Shady Creek Drive, and I have 6 members of my immediate family attending TSD, with 2 more on the way in the next few years. I am here today because we are in the midst of a mental health crisis affecting children and adolescents. Higher rates of loneliness, isolation, and anxiety are taking a devastating toll on their well-being. According to the CDC, 1 in 7 children has a diagnosed mental or behavioral condition. Yet, the National Institutes of Health reported last year that 70 to 80% of children with these diagnoses go without care. This crisis is not being ignored. The New York Times, Scientific American, and the Washington Post have all highlighted this issue over the past year. Teachers who often serve as the first line of response are not equipped to handle these challenges in the clinical sense. Across the country and in TSD, teachers are underpaid, understaffed, overworked, and the same applies to school counselors and social workers who are already stretched too thin to meet the demand. To address this, I am advocating for the creation of a mental health committee consisting of parents and fully licensed medical professionals. This committee would collaborate to develop practical, effective solutions to support our students and ensure that no child in the Troy School District falls through the cracks. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Colby. All right, thank you. That concludes public communication. Again, thank you to our speakers for sharing your views. We're going to move on then to our next item of the agenda, which is approval of the consent agenda. Tonight, the consent agenda consists of minutes of the December 3rd, 2024 Board of Education workshop, minutes of the December 17th, 2024 Board of Education meeting, and the November 2024 Treasurer's Report. May I have a resolution, please? Mr. Hopp.
Be it therefore resolved that the Troy Board of Education takes action to approve items A, B, and C on the consent agenda.
Support.
We have a resolution by Mr. Hopp, supported by Ms. Alish. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor of the resolution, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right, continuing on our agenda, any personnel tonight?
There is no personnel?
Any curriculum?
No curriculum this evening?
Okay, then our next item of business is, agenda is business. Mr. Trudeau, if you want to come up and go through your items.
Yep, good evening, Board of Education. So first item on the agenda for your approval this evening and consideration is related to the Troy High Kitchen Servery project. So this was presented at the workshop to you last week. So we did receive quotes as required under the state of Michigan law. And so this project will complete the Troy High Servery. This will spend down our excess fund balance, which is a good thing. We do anticipate a small amount remaining based on this last fiscal year, but the majority of it will have been spent through this project. So this project was coordinated with Chartwell's. It was coordinated with our internal food service people, as well as TMP and Barton Mallow. So this will begin likely in the late spring, probably end of May, and then will be planned to be finished by the start of school. So for your consideration, the total bid is $1.35 million.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Trudeau. May I have a resolution for us to consider spending funds on the kitchen server project? Ms. Sinny?
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for remodeling the kitchen serving area at Troy High be awarded as follows, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the Food Services Fund. Selective demolition, Graham Construction for $48,700. General trades, Graham Construction for $219,335. Hard tiles, Omega Floors for $51,500. Food service equipment from Great Lakes Hotel Supplies at for $675,491. Mechanical to Quality Air Systems for $148,800. And electrical to Innovative Energy Controls in $206,815 for a total amount of $1,350,641.
Support.
We have a resolution by Ms. Inay, supported by Ms. Alish. Any discussion or questions on this resolution? Go ahead.
I brought this question up at the workshop as well, but everything that's being done at Troy High is with an eye towards any future renovations that would also be done there as well, correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Trudeau, maybe for the benefit of the public, could you also talk a little bit about where this money is coming from?
Yep, so this is from the Food Service Fund. So right now we live in an era where meals are free, fortunately, for all students. That does lead to an excess fund balance for the majority of districts, so this isn't a problem. It's a good problem to have, but not isolated to Troy School District. So with the reimbursement rate that we do get from the federal government being a little bit higher, as you increase the volume of free meals, you tend to have a little bit more profit in that fund. So we had a little under $1.3 million to spend down in this food service fund as of last year. So we had this planned project. We came in a little bit over that. So we do have additional fund balance coming, excess fund balance, I should say, coming from last fiscal year, where we have to turn in a plan in a couple of months for next year. So through this project, we will be able to fully spend down that fund balance. If you don't spend it down, the state typically, through the audit process, they'll give you a slap on the wrist, if you will, for not spending it down. So they want to see a plan in place and actually following through on that plan. So.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Trudeau, for the purpose of the audience, would you tell us how old the equipment that we are replacing are, possibly?
Yeah, some of the equipment that I've heard through discussions with our food service partners is a little over 20 years old. So some of it's pretty old, breaking down, needing a lot of repairs. But this will also kind of create a food service kitchen area that's going to have different stations available for students. So you're trying to modernize the feel, much like you would see in a college atmosphere. So the seating will change a little bit too over time. But then it does allow for, number one, you have different equipment to make different types of food in an easier way. But you'll have different stations for different types of food, whether it's sandwiches or salads, wraps, chicken bowls, whatever it might be. So it just allows for more variation too. Yep.
Great.
Very good, thank you.
Good. Anything else? Okay, let's take our vote. All those in favor of the resolution to fund the kitchen server project, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
So the next item on the agenda for your consideration is an RFP that was issued for paving projects throughout the district. So this will take place at Barnard Elementary, Leonard Elementary, Morse Elementary, and then Athens High School and the transportation site. I did send a correction through the board communication on Friday regarding Athens.
Yep.
We've had a lot of bond meetings about Athens recently, so I apologize for that one. But this would be over at Athens between the Ox Field and the tennis fields. There's a small lot that kind of was used as a staging area for all the construction. So that was planned to be paved, but through all of that construction, it took a toll on that. So we're replacing that this summer. And then the front lot will be in the next few years. They're finalizing those plans right now. So the total package for this project is $2.4 million. That does have a 6% contingency in that as well. And then we do have a small portion of this bid that does pertain to the drainage of the backfield behind the parking lot at Barnard Elementary as well.
Great, thank you. So we're being asked to consider expenditure on the paving projects that Mr. Trudell just went through. May I have a resolution, please? Mr. Hop?
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for site work paving projects be awarded as follows, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the capital funds or capital projects fund. Paving replacement, resurfacing, T&M asphalt paving for $2,193,770. 6% contingency of $131,000 or $131,626. Great Lakes Landscape Design for Barnard drainage system and installation for $112,537 for a total of $2,437,933.
Support.
We have a resolution by Mr. Hop, supported by Ms. N.A. Questions or discussion on this item? Okay, all right. Hearing none. All those in favor of the resolution, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. And our final business item, Mr. Trudell?
The last item on the agenda for your consideration relates to flooring replacement and polishing throughout the district. So this is pretty typical for summertime. We review the bids with all the contractors at this time and get them on the schedule for the summer. So this will have some flooring replacement done at Barnard Elementary, Hill Elementary, and Wass Elementary, and then as well as Baker Middle School, International Academy East, and then the Athens Stadium Concession Building. We do have 2 different contractors that will complete the work, so Conventional Carpet will do the actual flooring, and then we did receive only 1 bid for the actual polishing, which is pretty standard. There's not a lot of contractors that do that type of work, let alone on the scale that we do need it to be done. So the Diamond Shine Polishing was that one company. We have used them before, and the pricing is in line with what we've typically seen. So total cost is $879,000.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Trudell. May I have a resolution? We're being asked to consider flooring replacement and polishing project expenditures. Dr. Melton?
Be it therefore resolved that the bid for flooring replacement work be awarded as follows, and that this amount be approved as an expenditure of the Building Site and Sinking Fund. Conventional carpet, floor demolition and replacement in the amount of $744,015.21. Diamond Shine Polishing for floor polishing in the amount of $85,450. Additional and emergency flooring in the amount of $50,000 for a total of $879,456.21.
Support.
Did you support? Okay. So we have a motion moved by Dr. Melton, supported by Mr. Hop. Any comments, discussion, questions on this one? Go ahead.
One comment. This additional and emergency flooring, is that the contingency that we usually do?
Yeah, just given the nature of the project where it's really just flooring. As they go through different buildings and they're replacing the flooring, it's always a collaboration with the building administration or staff where you're going into a room and they see the contractor and they're replacing the floor and they'll say, hey, can we do this small room or this bathroom, whatever it might be. So that's your contingency amount, but it's really just to give that flexibility to accommodate the building needs.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, let's take our vote. All those in favor of the resolution, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Trudell. All right, so we took care of public comment on non-agenda items at the beginning, so we are now into other. And Dr. Macheski, I'll turn it over for you for the attendance area review report.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Philippart. As was mentioned this evening, and there were a number of community members in attendance at the last workshop last Tuesday that we held at Baker Middle School to present the findings from the Attendance Area Review Committee as was planned. From that point, we shifted into phase 3, which is further consideration, answering additional questions. So we did the presentation for the board. There were a number of questions asked. We gathered all of those questions as part of the presentation. We attempted to incorporate as many of those questions as possible. I think we did a pretty good job getting all the questions into the presentation this evening. So we've skinnied down the presentation a bit this evening, but we've got additional information in there specific to questions that were raised, good questions that were raised, both by the community as well as board members. It should also be understood that we are putting together a frequently asked questions document that addresses, again, some of the questions that were asked, but we will continue to update that document as we move forward. So opportunity this evening for the community as a whole to hear the presentation, but as well the board to ask any additional questions that you might have. We'll capture those and we'll continue to provide feedback with respect to this as we move through this process. And important to remember, this is a process. We're into, again, the kind of the findings stage, if you will. We've done the research now. It's really zeroing in on and making sure that we have all of the accurate information, making sure, again, that we've asked or that we answer any questions that have been asked. The next step would also then be, should the board wish us to move forward, would be then to have community conversations. So we would then, we will schedule community conversations with those communities that are impacted. As a very good question was asked when we were last together, making sure that, or comment, I guess I should say, making sure that we're doing everything we can to get the message out to any impacted community so that they can be a part of that conversation moving forward, and we've already talked about some ways in which we can do that. So with that, excuse me, I'm going to ask Mr. Wills to come forward from Plant Moran Cressa. Mr. Wills has worked with the district for quite a while, works with many districts on issues related to demographics, enrollment trends, and so forth. He's provided the board over the course of the last decade or so enrollment updates and so forth. Also, I'm going to ask Mr. Trudell to join us at the podium in case there's any additional questions. This has been quite a bit of work, but along with Mr. Wills, Mr. Trudell, Ms. Montanti, as well as Mrs. DiPlato and Mrs. Griefer have been instrumental in helping to gather this information, make sense of the information, to put it in terms that our community can understand and appreciate, but then also in a format that the board can ultimately make a decision moving forward. So with that, turn it over.
Thank you, Superintendent Macheski, and good evening, board members. And so, again, this is the second going into the third phase of the Attendance Area Review Committee, if you will. So, like most districts, again, as Superintendent Macheski mentioned, we work with about 100 districts around the state. About every 5 to 10 years, districts do look at enrollment. They do look at facility utilization. They look at where they're at with their capital plans. So the district really took a look in 2015, also in 2018, and also kind of leading up to opportunities for the current bond program. Another committee has put together, really take a look at facilities and how we use them holistically. So it really is just something that a lot of districts do as best practice, being very proactive versus being reactive as you go through some of these differences of enrollment and utilizations. So some of the why, as you heard, the splits have been in place for quite some time. That again is a split from cohort, let's say from elementary to middle school, maybe potentially back to high school going forward. Right now there's a double split at Troy Union. There's also some single splits for Smith, Bigger, Waddle, and Hamilton. The good news is we actually took a look and actually had several curriculum presentations as part of this process, understanding that all 4 of your middle schools have the identical programs in terms of opportunities for students. Now, where those programs may take place does vary, again, depending on the number of students that participate in each of those programs. Right now, some of the challenges that the district has, as well as others, is you have some discrepancy of enrollment size. So you almost have 900 students at some buildings in middle school, and some elementaries are below 600. When that happens, sometimes you have problems with extracurricular activities, electives, you have maybe some part-time teachers or staff that have to travel between buildings. So again, having an equalized enrollment across the district does help from an academic standpoint, as well as arts and athletics going forward. So, as Superintendent Macheski mentioned, we've been providing enrollment projections for the last 10 years. For several of you board members have been on for a while. We actually have done this actually pre-COVID, post-COVID, and most recently as part of this engagement here. Part of the other reason is you're currently building a Smith Middle School. And again, taking a look at some of the things you heard from community members, all 4 of your middle schools are very highly ranked and are performing well. So again, those are some of the ancillary items that we've taken a look at why is part of this ARC process going forward. So in terms of the optional size, again, you take a look at learning communities, you look at cohort sizes. So about 125 students per learning community is probably the target, which gives you an average size of 25. I know some of your other peer districts, that size is 28 to 30 to 32 students. So again, Troy's specifically trying to keep those class sizes a little bit smaller going forward. You take a look at sections. So sections is how many 25 classroom per grade would you have. In this case, you have 5. What that puts you is 2 learning communities, roughly 600 or 750 students is kind of the targeted range. We look at grades 6 through 8 collectively going forward. As we mentioned, they can flex. So again, 30, 32 kids in a classroom, you can get up to 900 kids fairly quickly with the same square footage that potentially have currently going forward. Again, as we mentioned, you start dipping below that 750, 700. Some of those other challenges are you're going to have some increase in cost because you don't have as many students per program going forward. So some of the optimal enrollment benefits, again, is having electives with full-time staff. Again, taking a look at grade level enrollment, looking at 3 lunch periods. Sometimes when you get over that 850, 900, you may have a 4th. My son was actually in one of those buildings where lunch started at 10:45 and lunch was 1:15 in another district. And also the building's ability to support comfortably enrolled with staff. So again, that 750 is that sweet spot they normally see relative to middle schools across the Southeast Michigan. So some of the smaller schools, again, we talked about the disparagement of enrollment. Again, more partial and shared staff going forward, limited availability when courses could potentially be offered. Great example is art. You may have only 2 art classes or 2 sections offered. You may have to have that student take another elective based on availability going forward. We actually just wrapped up the statewide facility assessment. They talk a lot about utilization, so the lower your utilization numbers are, the more general fund dollars you're spending on things such as maintenance, custodial, heating, cooling, air conditioning. They're taking away from programmatic things going forward. And then also just extracurricular activities, the yearbooks, the theaters, the jazz bands, et cetera. So those are, again, some of the challenges when districts start dipping below an optimal size going forward. Conversely, on the larger schools, again, you will have staffing challenges. You may have to have more than 1 full-time equivalent teacher for those different programs when you start getting the 850, 900 range going forward. We talk about splits, not just with the cohorts, but also with teachers having to teach multiple sections of a variety of classes going forward. As you can imagine, we have some districts that do have 1,100 students in middle school. The hallways are congested. Cafeterias are obviously a challenge. Also, just from a site logistics standpoint, trying to get that many students, parents, guardians, et cetera, on and off the site at the beginning of school and the end of school are often challenges going forward. And then again, you take a look at Troy. I mean, Troy's got relatively stable housing, albeit a little more on the expensive side, but again, it does prevent sometimes students from opting into that school if they move in that particular neighborhood going forward. So again, just some background on the academic lens of smaller schools versus larger schools. We're going to transition now actually into historical enrollment. So again, I think I shared this with the board. If you go back to the year 2000, that was the highest birth rate in Oakland County, really since 1990. And at that time, there was over 16,200 live births in the year 2000. So you think of your graduating classes in 2010, 2011, 2012. Well, what's happened since that time, if you take a look at the most recent data, Oakland County has just under 13,000 live births. So in 2022, you can kind of see the impact of COVID. That's that dip, really from the perspective of declined live births. Well, the problem is those live births are not increasing. So Oakland County continues to be right around 13,000 live births going forward. We know that Troy captures a certain percentage of those eligible live births every single year. And so one of the trend models we're looking at is right now, if you look at your 6th through 8s here at Baker Middle School, and again, we did it not just for the district-wide, but for each individual boundary within the district itself. So here you have Baker, topped out at about 728 in 2019. COVID hits, and then obviously looking at where you're at currently, which is that gray dashed line in the middle. Obviously looking out the 5 years, about 572. Same exercise for Bolin Middle School. Again, take a look at 2019, pre-COVID, 87. You see the dip, then obviously a bounce back, but again, taking a look at the cohorts of those 3 elementary schools that make up that middle school, projections to about 718 here in 2028. Larson Middle School, again, topped out about 802. A significant decrease during COVID. It did bounce back. And again, one of the reasons you're seeing such a dramatic decrease from current is a lot of that school of choice students are moving through that system. And again, they're not being backfilled. So again, that's why you're seeing some of this ups and downs, if you will. But in reality, 2028 is projected to be about 795. Lastly, at Smith Middle School, relatively flat, topped out at 687 in 2019. Again, looking at the grades, not just 4, 5, and 6, but also K through 2. For the 3 elementary schools, Smith Middle School projected to be about 555 in that same time frame. So a little bit of background of the pupil enrollment utilization. Again, we are recognized by the Department of Treasury to provide enrollment projections for school districts. We have a lot of your peer districts as our clients going forward. And again, not just looking back, but also with that 5-year projection at the elementary level, a 10-year, and we start getting the middle school and high school levels. So we shared a lot of this information with just data. So the ARC is comprised of roughly 25 members, about 15 administrators and 10 community members. Really take a look at program validation of your middle schools. You'll notice we're not here talking about closing middle schools. You're not at that point of population trends at this point where we have some districts, they are actually, as part of their capital programs, taking a middle school offline going forward. But taking a look at how do you best level the enrollment based on the boundaries to preserve programming, to really take a look at the, I'll call it the equitable distribution of students, so everyone's right around that 657, 725 range going forward. It was a 3-month process. So we met roughly every 2 to 3 weeks. We actually kind of did a step-by-step. So again, we started with the enrollment, we started with the programming. I really appreciate Superintendent Chesky and his team for explaining some of the questions that came back, like, we heard this. Well, in reality, this is what's happening with the middle schools going forward. Taking a look at a variety of different options. So one of the things you're going to see tonight, and I think you saw in the last meeting, is we only showed you a certain percentage. There's actually several other that as a committee didn't feel kind of met the requirements or met the guidelines of that committee work going forward. So again, there's obviously many ways to accomplish this. And again, having worked with plenty of districts, change is hard. I get that. I can tell you stories of my own children going through 3 different boundary changes over 12 years. I'm both as a parent and as a community member. But really take a look at focusing on the 4 middle schools. How do you achieve that balanced enrollment, understanding where a variety of different impacts may currently be? The one thing that we did talk about is there's no change to the high school. So the Rochester Road split is the Rochester Road split from Athens into Troy High going forward. We took a look at programmatic experiences from each of those lenses going forward. Looked at the location of each of the schools. We talked about transportation. We talked about food services. We also talked about categorical programs with special education and different programs that are specific to elementaries and wondering about their cohorts in the middle school and high school going forward. So again, it wasn't just simply looking at a map and start really addressing lines going forward. As Superintendent Chesky mentioned, this is a 4-step process. Last week was really an opportunity to come to the board and say, here's options A, B, C, D, E, and potentially F, change going forward. Appreciate the feedback that we received. Again, this is a discussion. What you're seeing is our considerations, and I think we're going into phase 3 now, which is again the listening sessions for those students that are potentially impacted relative to that going forward. Ultimately, coming back in the April-May timeframe with a concerted recommendation or consideration for the board. So some of the data that the group really utilized, again, we did take a look at cohorts and birth rates. We actually went back to the year 2000, if you will. Talked about the results of the 2015 and the 2018 ARC reviews as well. We took a look at resident and non-resident. We also took a look at the paths of each of those schools. Trying to keep cohorts as much together as possible going forward. We actually did a deeper dive into students with disabilities and socioeconomic challenges to make sure we're trying to balance those as we go forward going forward. Taking a look at community input. So again, the community as a whole, they have a good pulse in the community, but what are those processes that are going to be that second or third or fourth phase, which we just discussed here currently. So as I mentioned, a lot of other districts are currently going through very similar conversations. Here's just a smattering of our clients that we're working with that are in that same exact process of coming out of COVID. We thought everything was going to bounce back. We're going to have, a 8, 9, 10% increase of kindergarten. The problem is it's just not there. To give you an example, the state had over 2 million students in the year 2000. We have just under 1.4 million in that same time frame. As I mentioned, Oakland County has the same challenges as Kent County, as Macomb, as Livingston going forward. So a lot of the conversations you hear tonight are also being discussed at the variety of districts that you see on your screen. So moving into the attendance area review goals. So again, really taking a look at equal student ratios. When we say equal, we're not saying they have to be exact number, but within a certain percentage that would say, you know what, we're in that range of 725, 675, things of that nature. Again, you're not going to have that exact number across the board. So again, trying to right size the 4 existing middle schools. Resolving the double splits. Obviously, that's something that we've heard pretty clearly from the committee themselves, and obviously we talked about the high school. Keeping cohorts to potentially from a middle school and back into the high school going forward. So you may not be familiar with some of the current pathways. So up on your screen are, on the left-hand side of the arrows is the elementary school. You see the double split with Troy Union. Some students go to Smith, some go to Larson, and then some go to Athens, and some go to Troy. So that is a double split. You'll see Morse and Waddles. Again, they go for cohort, the entire class goes from Morse to Baker, but then they also split at Athens and Troy. And then same with Waddles, it goes Waddles to Baker, but then most students then split at the high school level. Hamilton's also the other one. So from elementary, they split from Smith and Poland, but then they all come back to Troy. So a lot of variety of movements. And again, some of the actions of the committee was really to try to look at those specifically individually, but more holistically as a part of going forward. So the current future student counts, again, we've been doing this since I think 2013, 2014. This most recent fall count, so again, you have a fall count in November, or I'm sorry, October, and you also have a spring count coming up here in February. Those do get audited by the state of Michigan. That's how you actually get your foundation allowance. So you had 2,940 students at that time frame. Again, looking at those charts that we provided, we kind of looked out the next 2 years. We obviously could look out the next 5, but there's a significant decrease of students at the middle school level. So again, in red, what you have is kind of the current boundaries in December 24. And if you maintain the existing boundary, again, with those students kind of progressing through school of choice, plus you look at the current feeder of those 3 elementaries for each of these. In blue, what you see is kind of the 2027 enrollment. So again, Bowling Park and Larson well over 700, and then obviously Smith and Baker about 550, 536. So again, that would still create that inconsistency. So one of the things we've done is we've taken a look at what would those current 6th through 8th graders be in 2027. So what you have up here is the individual school with those associated numbers, if you will. We also know that the district does grow about 1.5% from 5th grade into 6th grade because sometimes competing entities stop at 5th grade. You do actually have great programming at the middle school, so you see that increase. So what numbers you're seeing here are the numbers that would then feed into the variety of different scenarios. that we're looking at for that going forward. I think one of the questions you had specifically was Troy Union, and please feel free if I misstep here, but right now in the fall of 27, there would be about 205 students in Troy Union. Currently about 100 would be assigned to Smith, 105 would be assigned to Larson. And then there is some open enrollment, again from Smith and Larson based on capacity of roughly 20 students. Right now, if you take a look at the actuals, you kind of see the numbers. 80 are going to Smith, and then obviously 125 are going to Larson. Again, these are data points today. It will change next week. It will change next month. But I think trend-wise, again, you're taking a look at kind of the next 2 years as we go forward. The next question that we spent a little bit of time with was the Somerset Apartments. Again, about 319 students in the fall of 2027. There's currently about 370-ish going forward. And so right now the district actually takes Somerset Apartments and they basically allocate them to a variety of elementary schools, predominantly in the middle and west side of the district. And it's really helped, I think, balance enrollment, balance socioeconomics programs going forward. So again, one of the things you take a look at is kind of by elementary. But right now, 100% of those students all end up at Bolin and ultimately to Troy. So that's the current policy that I think we had shared with previous presentations.
Yeah, one thing I would note as well with these students in particular, all of the options that were presented at the workshop all had those students following their cohort from elementary school to their respective middle schools. So that was where we had a 2027 projection, like if there was no change, that was assuming they were all going to kind of deviate to their respective middle schools. After some of the questions that were received at the board workshop, we did go back and kind of dig a little deeper. And so you'll see at the end of this presentation an option of what if you just did nothing and you had those Somerset Apartment students going to Bolin as they are today, because that is current practice. So I just want to highlight that, in all the options that were presented previously, that was the general consensus of the committee, was that it would make sense to use them to balance the rest of the buildings out. So, and respecting the continuity of being with a cohort as well, and trying to avoid that split by sending them back to Bolin. So I just wanted to highlight that part real quick.
So again, this was the option C. Again, as kind of was presented. So one of the things you'll see in the upper right-hand side, this would be all of Troy Union going to Smith. That entire cohort would then go back to Athens. So again, you're eliminating that double split, keep that entire cohort, elementary and middle back to high school. As Dan mentioned, we did update that based on questions from the group and what we heard from the community. So again, what the students in the Somerset, again, would be following their elementary school. So again, here you have some going to Smith, some going to Bolin Park, some go to Baker, versus all 300 plus going through Bolin. So obviously Bolin's numbers would go up pretty significantly if ultimately that was decided as maybe an approach going forward. So updating the pros and cons. So again, if you take a look at the enrollment numbers, between 682 and 600. So again, not exactly equal, but again, you talk about the communities, learning communities of about 125. This does fit nicely into a 5-section split. It does resolve the double splits. It does meet the 3 goals of preserving those going forward. But most importantly, it keeps those cohorts together. The unfortunate part is you still have some of these single splits, predominantly in the south end of the district, with Waddle, Smith, Baker, and then obviously with Hamilton, between Bolin Park and Smith going forward. So we also took a look at transportation. So again, the routes and numbers, I think Dan did a great example. Let's say if you had all these students from Somerset going to A, there's one bus stop pickup at Somerset and they take you directly to that school, so there's no intermediate stops as you have, let's say, with a normal list. We're trying to keep those routes to 30 minutes or less, which would be the district standard. English learners, again, taking a look at staffing, who can support those programs going forward. And then obviously from a special education impact, you would see some increases at Smith. Again, students with IEPs, again, have services and resource rooms that would be cohorted with their peers. We heard that pretty loud from several of the community members that were very focused on making sure special education was incorporated versus just counting classrooms and going from there. Again, we talked about the categorical, but more importantly, staff buildings are based on the needs of those schools. So again, every year, Incoming 6th grade class, they look at their academic needs, they look at their performance needs, and staff gets adjusted accordingly. So some of the other outcomes from option C, again, if you take a look, this would be all of Troy Union goes to Smith. All students at Somerset would go to Bowling Park, that's the current. And so as you can see, Smith goes down to 591, Bowling goes up to 793, Baker and Larson are relatively similar, with the exception Baker drops pretty significantly as well, because again, those students would all go to Bowling Park as part of this potential scenario. The pros, it does resolve double splits, but obviously the cons are now you have a discrepancy of enrollment again, and again, you still have some of those ongoing single splits that were currently with regardless of option. Transportation-wise, again, buses and the routes get shifted with the students, obviously. Same thing with ELL and special education. Those would follow the students' needs going forward. The next option was C, was taking a look at Somerset apartments only. So again, keeping the Troy Union the way it's currently split at the elementary level. Obviously, some will go to Larson, some go to Smith, but then you still have the double splits at the high school level going forward. In this scenario, Larson goes up to about 750, Smith drops to 557, and Baker and Bull are roughly about 600, 616, somewhere in that part going forward. So again, just providing options and thoughts. Again, this is data. Like, we're not looking for decisions tonight, but an opportunity for the board, as well as community members, to say, I think the district is listening to a variety of different considerations going forward. Option with Somerset Apartments, obviously the courts, they do stay together. But again, you still have the double splits unresolved at Troy Union, and then the same with Waddles, Hamilton, Smith, Baker, with those splits going forward. Same thing with transportation. Again, those three identities have been kind of confirmed of the same approach, regardless if it's Troy Union or Somerset Apartments. Another consideration with option C is what if all of Troy Union goes to Larson? What ends up happening there is Larson goes about 830, Smith drops to 477, Baker and Bowling Park stay roughly the same from that perspective going forward. And then again, just like they mentioned, the Somerset Apartments would follow from an elementary to the middle school cohort. That's why Bowling Park does not have a significant increase, and you still see the Baker and some of the Smith being at the numbers they're at going forward. Pros and cons, again, you do resolve the double splits. It does keep cohorts together, but as you can see from the attendance variation from Larson being well over that threshold, and then obviously where Smith would be at going forward, and you still have the splits from that perspective. Transportation, ELL, and special ed, again, very similar to other option C outcomes. Again, the district's very cognizant, very aware, and focused on supportive of this going forward. Lastly, we have no change. Again, we heard some of that from what if we just do the nothing option going forward. So as I mentioned, you're dropping about 400 students in the next 2 years. If you go out to 2029 and look at that enrollment, you're going to see that disparagement be much, much greater than what you're currently at. So again, just take a look at 2024, looking back to those graphs where we showed you in previous presentation, up to 2027, some of the challenges that you have going forward. Although one pro is no one gets affected, except for, I think, programmatically. Again, those challenges you have with some of your extracurricular electives would still be in place going forward. I know there is some community support to kind of wait and see what goes on. But again, taking a look at the enrollments, both current and projected, a wide variety of numbers there, talk about disparity. And again, the double splits are still there, and obviously the single splits. So I'm going to move on to assumptions in terms of timeline. So again, this is just a data presentation. We're moving to phase 3, which is the listening sessions, coming back April, May timeframe. But again, some of these are really taking a look at what if I'm a parent and I say, knowing that something may happen, there's the option to move early. So hey, I want to be, I'm a 5th grader, I want to make sure I'm potentially looking at what that future school would be. We call it legacy or grandfathering, so it's allowing those students to kind of follow their pathways of their siblings going forward. We also have advanced programming, so again, taking a look at some of the movement that's going to take place regardless with the bond, students moving on to the Smith campus going forward. But I think the main focus of this page is all 4 middle schools will still offer great programming. I think you have to keep that centered in the forefront when you talk about some of these considerations. Recap, again, is just the phases 1 through 4, really through May. And the next steps obviously are going to be, here we are at the end of January, giving the board update from the listening session with the board at the workshop. So I do appreciate Superintendent Chesky and his staff working over the weekend to really be able to put this information and answer some of those questions we heard at the board. Community meetings, again, will take place. That feedback will be provided, I think, through the administration team. And then ultimately, come April, May, come with considerations. So with that, I will turn it back over to the board, or Superintendent Chesky, for any questions for Dan or myself.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Alish.
Can you go back to the slide that has the breakdown of how many current Troy Union students go to Smith Larson? Okay, so I don't necessarily expect to have the answer to this question tonight, but I think it's an important consideration. So when we're looking at this option, we keep talking about students being grandfathered in and being able to make that choice. What I would like to know is what that really means, because if I'm understanding this, is it 20 students that is it 20 of the 100,
Yes.
or is it 20 per year?
20 of the 100
Have chosen to
open
go to
enrolled.
Larson
Yep,
as
so only
opposed to
80
Smith.
ended up going to Smith that should have gone to Smith based on their residence.
Okay.
Yep.
So the impact might not be great, but I would like to know, what do the numbers mean if, well, there's a couple of things. One, that's how many have chosen to go, to Larson from Smith of those that currently were slated to go to Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But if we now grandfather in all of those that were previously going to Larson and allowing those siblings to continue to go to Larson, we're now looking at much bigger numbers.
Yes.
So I would like to know what that means over, if we can kind of get some numbers to it over the 5-year period. Will that almost erase the number of,
Yeah.
I know that there's going to be new students that are going to be the first in the family who would be affected by this, but what are our projections of how many families would continue to go to Larson if we give this option of being grandfathered in?
Yeah, we can have our data services pull that. They pulled this information for us late last week, but we did get feedback that there's a significant number of families that have open enrolled over to Larson, and as well as the ones that were slated to go to Larson, they do have siblings.
Yeah.
So they do, based on just the eyeball test, they do project that it would take a number of years to flush out a lot of the siblings.
So I think it would be good to know and understand that. And the reason being, and it's something that Dr. Philippart brought up at the workshop, is, based on the fact that people are not having children, right?
144 versus the 1.16.
Yeah. So these are all things that we're going to have to think about, and so not to get to a point where we're redrawing lines to fix a problem we can't necessarily fix because a lot of people are being grandfathered in, and then by the time it's flushed out, we're now in a situation where we have to redraw the lines because we don't have enough students to attend 4 schools. And then we might be displacing those families again. So that is my reason for wanting to have that information and to really understand what that impact is. And the other question is not specific to the particular choices, but again, something that Dr. Philippart brought up at the workshop, is to think about, is there a way, would it make sense for us going forward to use schools of choice to And even within the current framework that we might be looking at, is that something that could also be used? You know, ideally, I know that we probably like to bring students in kindergarten, first grade, and then have them go through the system as opposed to bringing in middle school. But in the scenario that we maybe choose not to do something this year, delay, look at, depending on what the numbers and where things go, that may give us time to, you know, use all sorts of resources going forward. So I would like that information also thought about, you know, and incorporated into whatever we have going forward.
Do you want maybe a proposed type of a school of choice program that?
Yeah, like what,
some
you know.
sort of structure and.
Yeah, because we do have time, you know,
Yes,
we won't be looking anything final until April, May, so.
Yeah.
That, and then definitely, I do want those grandfathered in numbers to see, because what you're showing us is 2027 numbers, that's assuming, I'm assuming that means everybody from Troy Union goes to Smith. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can have our data services pull that.
Okay.
It just takes a little time, but they can do that.
Yeah, of course, yeah, okay, thank you.
Anyone else, comments, questions?
Was this sent to us already, this updated presentation? Like, this new stuff, was that sent to us?
It's on board docs.
Yeah, it's on board
It is,
docs.
okay, okay. I just need to look at it a little bit better.
I
Yeah,
do
go ahead,
have a
Ms. Simon.
question. When we are talking about grandfathering in or allowing parents to send their younger siblings, there are many different ways to do that. As in, like, if your child is already in the middle school right now, and you have a younger sibling that's going to start 6th grade, for transportation purposes, we could grandfather them in. But there are other ways, even though your child is now an 8th grader going into 9th grade, but just because your child went to Larson, for example, you allow your younger one to go to Larson, even though there's no transportation concerns. Are all of these we are looking at, are we thinking of more just for transportation purposes kind of thing?
Yeah, typically that level of detail regarding this is a little bit further down in the process. So depending on, you know, the board feedback, the community feedback, as we continue to explore these various options, then that's where I think we would sit down with our transportation department and go, okay, what would make sense if a child or a parent elected to keep a student at a particular building?
Oh, no, okay, maybe I misspoke. I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of where would the grandfathering end?
The definition
The
of
definition of
grandfather.
what grandfathering is.
So again, I think Dan hits the
we
nail on
can
some
determine
districts
that.
say, hey, once that student is out of that middle school, even if you have a 2nd or 3rd grader, it stops. Some say, you know what, as soon as that last family member, so if there's a gap between elementary and middle, they're allowed. So it is kind of district
Yeah,
specific.
I think we
I
can.
think that's our
we
A
have
lot of it
decision.
goes to also kind of buildings accommodate that, you know, what are the sizes and
That-
transportation, but I think that's a great point. There's no fast rule. But we can definitely share, I think, with some of the districts.
Yeah, I think we can build out what those options might look like.
Yeah, I think,
that
you know,
are most
Amina's-
often utilized.
Yeah, and
Probably makes
Amina's
sense.
question of getting at that data will allow us to look at what different definitions of
Yeah, but we can work
grandfathering
with
mean.
Paul and kind of formulate what other districts have done. And then through that, obviously, we could share, you know, we're as Dr. Macheski said, we're working on an FAQ. Perhaps we can list them in there because our goal, I know Kendra and her team are working on a website specific to this committee where we can share this information. So through that avenue, I think we can put some of this information and proposed ideas, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead, Ms. Go ahead, Stephanie.
I think I'd be curious to learn more about what you mentioned about building utilization. I think that matters down the river and up the river as we start to look at current building utilizations, both for our elementary buildings, the middle schools as they exist, and the high schools, right? Because as we shift, things move, right? We can assume, I think it'd be helpful for us, myself maybe just only, and or the public to see how tightly are we using our buildings now, where's space, and to Amina's point about potentially another school of choice option, like where are we gonna put these people? think it'd be interesting to take a peek at the what is, if that's available, what are current building utilizations, what might we project for building utilizations, aside of numbers. I think there's a percentage score, right, that can come out so that we're not so loaded at, say, Troy High, that teachers are teaching on carts.
Right. Yeah, we have that information actually fairly recent from the FRC, Facilities Review Committee, so we can update that and have that available for you.
Excellent. And one last thing, and I've heard community folks talk about it. You mentioned it today. You talked about, you did a deep dive into special education, economically disadvantaged, that sort of thing. The chart you referenced on the presentation was an economically disadvantaged chart, it looked like. I'm curious, have we looked at that specifically? How will changing the makeups of each of the buildings, like what are those percentages now? What could they be potentially? I know it's hard to prognosticate out 4 years when you don't know who those kids are going to be, but you can
Yeah, I think the best part is, again, with some of the insight from the board, the work sessions, we've gone from here to here. So it's this funneling process. So now that we know it's option C with maybe 1 or 2 variations, that analysis can take place a little bit quicker, and I think, a little more specific. So, but I know, again, the district's been very great about just make that in the forefront versus just, let's just count generally classrooms and boundaries, so I appreciate that.
We've already started gathering that information as well, so it won't be hard.
And then last would be the piece about the learning pods, or the part where you talked about class size, 25 to 1 or whatever. Is that, I'd love to see data on like what is our current, like in each building currently. So we can see, like, is there this disparity we're talking about? How heavy is it? What is our student-to-teacher ratio, Baker, Bowling, et cetera? And what would we project it to be under the new? Thanks.
Okay. Any other requests for information? Okay, thank you. Thank you, and we appreciate the quick turnaround on at least the questions that we raised last week. That was very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Wills.
Thank you. Okay, the last item for us is to go through other. I think what I'm going to do, just because the new board members, this is new for you, I'm going to start the other on this side of the table so that you can kind of hear what kind of things people say, and it's perfectly fine if you have nothing in other to say, okay? But that's something that we typically do. Stephanie, just to key you up, we usually start at that end. I don't know why, but which can actually be to your advantage when you have stuff to say. But I'm going to start with you,
me first.
Vital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start off just because we just finished the attendance review committee. I do want to make a couple of comments about it. I want to first thank the committee and everybody involved in providing us all the options and all the data. We are doing our assessment and reviewing all our options extremely carefully and getting all the data as much as possible. We want to achieve our 2 goals, which is right-sizing the middle schools and reducing the double splits. But me personally, we are also trying to minimize disruption to our communities and our families. Even though you don't see that as a goal in there, that's definitely in our minds as we are doing that. Obviously, ideally, we could have no splits whatsoever and have the elementary schools go to middle school and go back and go to high school. That's pretty much very difficult to do without disrupting a whole lot of families. But we do understand that change is very difficult, and consistency and familiarity is super important, both for our families and for our children. But I also want to assure you that all our schools are extremely highly rated. All our teachers and administrators, no matter which building they are in and they teach from, they're all amazing. They're all very caring about our children and will do their best in helping them succeed. So over the next couple of days, as we are finalizing or getting more details into it, you will have a lot of opportunity to express all your concerns, and we will work hard to try and address every one of your concerns.
Great.
That's what I want to say.
Thank you.
The other thing I want to bring up is I did attend this is the advantage of going first.
Yes.
I did attend the MLK event yesterday along with a whole lot of our other board members. very well done. SSAB and SAC, our student boards, did an amazing job. It was great to see the turnout, even though it was extremely cold, and everyone was so excited to do the volunteering that by the time I donated blood and came down, everything was done. And I'm like, I couldn't do anything. So it was very good to see that. Great, thank you so much for everybody who helped organize, Kendra and Rich and everyone. Only other last thing I want to mention is next week is a Lunar New Year, or the Spring Festival. I want to wish all our Asian community a Happy New Year and a Spring Festival and a good celebration of the Year of the Snake.
Great, thank you.
So Vital already took one of mine, but yeah, I attended an MLK event yesterday too, and I want to thank Mrs. Matante and Ms. Holmes for working with the students as well. You know, I know you guys always say that they put in a lot of the effort and drive the work, but the two of you do as well. So, but the programming was very nice, and it's my understanding we had about 600 people attend, so that was really good. And then several of us are going to be attending the Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C., starting that first week of February, where we'll be with other school board members from Oakland County, also from the state of Michigan, and we'll be meeting with our representatives and our senators, talking to them and lobbying for school funding. So we'll have a report of that when we get back.
Great.
So I was going to talk about MLK Day, but I feel it was amazing to go and see the turnout. And like you, I feel like in the past I've done 5 or 6 blankets. I think we did 2. We went to go back and get some more, and there was none left. It was amazing. But I also like to congratulate our new officers for the year.
Thank you.
Congratulations, and then welcome to the new board members as well, on both sides. So welcome aboard.
So last Tuesday was my first opportunity to act as an official board member, and just an observation and a request from me to my fellow board members. I think it's really important that our community has the opportunity to see in a timely manner the discussions that are happening, and that's happening at those board workshops. So I would like to propose that we discuss the option of recording and live streaming, not just the board workshops, but also the meetings as well, so that people have it to go back to, but also can see like in real time. I think that would be really helpful for our community so that they get accurate information instead of relying on recaps and social media. So I think there's a lot of benefits, and I think it's really in the spirit of the Open Meetings Act. So I'd like my fellow board members to consider that. Thank you.
So we will put that on the next February agenda then.
Okay, pressure's on. You guys all took my MLK. We've been doing the MLK Day for years as a family, and it gets better and better every single year. I was so impressed with the speakers this year. I was really inspired also. A couple of the speakers, I felt like very much an underachiever. When I was listening to everything that they did, I'm like, wow, I haven't done anything with my life. So, and then I also attended my first time attending the powerlifting meet at Athens. My daughter is a first-time powerlifter, and I was so impressed. Wow. I only helped with the girls' part because I cannot do the whole day. I broke every single nail on my fingers, and my shoulders were sore for 2 days, but it was phenomenal. Our girls are very, very strong, so if any of the girls from the powerlifting team around here are listening, congratulations, you guys did a great job. And for the first workshop that I've been a part of and first board meeting, I'm very excited about this term, working with all these phenomenal people. And I just want to say thank you to everyone.
Okay, you're right. It is hard to.
Yeah, see, when you go first, you
Yeah. I'll plan for that. So I'll give some feedback on MLK from my 7-year-old son who attended with me yesterday. He said, "Are kids in charge of this?" Because he saw so many students at the lead. And I said, "Yes." And he said, "That's cool. I wasn't bored."
Oh,
That's a big
good.
deal. That is a huge seal of approval from a 7-year-old. He also indicated the food was fantastic. And he liked the opportunities to help. So I'm proud of our students and will continue to be proud of them for taking leadership and showing us how things are done. I'd like to thank my fellow board members for such a warm welcome. Last Tuesday was, like Audra said, the first opportunity for us to act as official board members. And in addition to thanking all of you for being so welcoming, I'd like to thank the community for coming out in numbers. And I know why you were there, and I hope that you continue to come. If you didn't know this before, where the sausage is made is at the workshops. That's where we're doing all of the important talking, planning, and question asking. So please continue to attend, continue to share your opinions. I can speak for myself that I want to hear everything you have to say, whether I agree with it or don't. It's my job to represent you well, and I'm going to do that to the best of my ability. I would also second Dr. Melton's opinion on televising and live streaming our workshops and meetings so that everyone can come and there are no barriers, making sure you as a community can participate with us. So thanks to everyone for a great first big table meeting.
Good. Well, you did well. Dr. Macheski.
Yeah, certainly echo all that's been said. I do want to make mention that advocacy was mentioned by Amina, that we'll have several members going to advocacy conferences. I think it's really important for the community to know the biggest reason that Michigan sends a contingency to DC, and Michigan sends the biggest contingent to DC on an annual basis in January and early February to advocate on behalf of IDEA, that's special education funding. This is the 50th year of IDEA. IDEA was passed bipartisan to help equal funding for states across the United States to the tune of about 40%. This year, we're funded at 14%, which means the district makes up the 36%. Districts make up the 36% difference between what the feds promised versus where we are currently, and we have never gotten more than 18%. So we're going to continue to advocate on behalf of our special education students, our teachers, those parents that support those students on a daily basis. We're going to do everything we can to see if we can't bring it across the finish line in its 50th year. So it's an important day for us. Also, I just want to mention January 30th is our Kinder Information Night at Athens at 6:30. We've shifted to doing them all in one spot. So I encourage all of our parents of new kinders to come on out, Athens High School in the auditorium, 6:30, January 30th. That's it for me.
Okay, great. I really just want to, again, thank the district and our students for recognizing us for School Board Appreciation Month. I think for many of us, it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work, but we think the benefits of working with our students and helping to contribute to the district's success is certainly well worth the time. Our next workshop is going to be at the Administration Building on February 11th. And then following that, so we're doing our meetings a little bit later this month because of winter break and also because of the advocacy conference. And so then our next workshop will be February 25th. Okay. So with that, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thanks everyone for coming. Stay warm. And for those of you in education, enjoy your freeze day tomorrow.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.